Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings. I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes, and today we're talking about the book Raptor Red. Um, as a side note, you may notice that these are super sketchy videos. That's because I don't know anything about video editing, so I just assume not risk my audio getting out of alignment with whatever visuals I have. The, you know, 7 pictures. Now, Raptor Red is a novel. You can see that it is what it says on the tin. Um, and this is a novel by paleontologist Robert T. Bakker. Dr. Bakker got his PhD from Harvard. He studied under John Ostrom, who is also renowned in the field of paleontology. And we have here a picture of him circa sometime back in the 1990s. Copyrighted to Ray Ing, as you can see on the side there. Bob Bakker is, and always has been, and probably always will be, a bit of a cowboy in terms of how he views dinosaurs and paleontology, but that's what makes him such a great educator and such a great showman. He takes so much delight in dinosaurs in a way that, honestly, I don't think I've ever seen any other paleontologist on television who takes the same kind of delight in them. Because he doesn't just enjoy them from the technical standpoint, from the discussions of complex physiological interactions and gross anatomy and all of those things that scientists are interested in. He enjoys them in that same childish way that we all did when we were 6. The big stompy things with sharp teeth that weighed tons and tons that could stomp you flatter than a cheap pizza, to quote Dave Barry. So, when he talks about dinosaurs, he talks about them in the same way that he talks about them in this book. This book being Raptor Red. Raptor Red is a novel about a Utah raptor and her trials and travails of a year in her life back in the Mesozoic. So, this book has a lot of line drawings in it, a lot of various pictures, and most of them were in fact drawn by Bob Bakker, including this map, which shows the state that the various continental masses were at that time in history. It shows you where Raptor Red came from. Over here in China, you can see red snouts split off from yellow snout species. And it shows how she and her kind crossed over the land bridge into North America. It shows where Africa was and gives you an idea of where all of this was at that time. Then he narrows in and gives you another map of Raptor Red's path and all of the various places that we hear about and see in the course of this book. Now here's the thing, if you enjoyed the BBC's Walking with Dinosaurs, if you enjoyed any of the BBC's Walking with Dinosaurs series, then you'll enjoy this book because he does have a tendency to anthropomorphize quite a bit. But it makes the world very much more accessible. It makes the raptor much more accessible because you're looking into the mind of a raptor, supposedly, who thinks in many ways like a human. And it gives you an idea of what it's like and what the world is like and how it would be perceived. And it's such an interesting experience reading this book. And you want to cry when her mate dies at the beginning. You want to cheer when she finds her sister. You want to make adorable noises at her when she starts to court a new mate. And it is just a dynamic book. But the thing is, the whole thing is chock full of how Bob Bakker sees the world of the Mesozoic, sees the period, the life of the Utah raptor, and what life on the Utah floodplains at that time would have been like. So here's, as it says at the bottom, dramatis personae. This is all of the dinosaurs in the book that had a particular role in things. And, of course, the one pterodactyl, because, as we all know, pterodactyls are dinosaurs, and heavens forfend somebody become irate because I was conflating a pterodactyl with a dinosaur. And there's also a crocodile down here because, as I always say, there's always crocodiles. And up here, just for scale, of course, is a human and what is supposed to be a dog, I assume. As I said, Bob Bakker drew all of these, and he's clearly very handy with pencil and paper. And you can see from the posing, from the way that the animals are, that he has a very dramatic and dynamic view of how all of these animals acted and behaved. The acro up here, pardon me, is, I suppose you could call it in a lot of ways, one of the villains of the piece. And the Deinonychus, is also another one of the villains. We have standoffs between Raptor Red and her sister, and acros and Deinonychuses, and it's all very dramatic and exciting and fun. This is, like most of the books I intend to reread for this series and intend to talk about. It is a fun book. It's fun when we get to talking about the fact that Raptor Red's sister decided to start up a friendship with little Troodonts, and they decide to go sledding on their butts down a hill because that is adorable and fun and silly. And Bob Bakker views raptors as having been childish and playful. So let's take a look at the frontispiece. This is how Bob Bakker views Raptor Red. This is a shot of a painting of Raptor Red here with what is probably supposed to be her sister and one of her sister's hatchlings. And this was painted by one man named Steve Youll. And I think that in a lot of ways, this painting is almost a connection between how we used to see dinosaurs and how we see them today, because you have this boldly striped dinosaur with its brilliant red stripe on its snout, on her snout, since this is most likely supposed to be a picture of Raptor Red, but there's a staidness to it that we don't have as much today in our art about dinosaurs. And that's because this book is from 1995. And 1995 was when we were just making the transition in how we viewed dinosaurs as the transition from big lumbering things to the lightning fast, sharp, and scary things that we've come to see them as. Jurassic Park had only come out a few years before. That is, the original Jurassic Park, the good one, not, all of the later ones that everyone says such horrifyingly awful things about. And so we look at this book, and what we see in this is not just a book that is, a Walking with Dinosaurs style story about dinosaurs and how adorable they can be and how friendly they can be and how dangerous they can be and how human-like they can be. It's about Bob Bakker trying to show everybody how he sees dinosaurs, how he thinks about dinosaurs, what he wants people to see dinosaurs as being like. And he wants people to see them as being smart and clever and fun and silly and almost human in how they see the world around them. In fact, let's move on to one more picture. This is the Great Dactyl, and he's one of the major role-playing characters in this book, actually, because he's formed a friendship, strangely enough, with Raptor Red, and he hangs around Raptor Red and her little pride of dinosaurs. He helps them and shows them where to find food and is their friend. And it's not a way that any of us ever really thinks about dinosaurs. It's not a way that any of us would have thought about dinosaurs back in the day, because back in the day, pre-1995, when this book came out, we all thought of dinosaurs as being like really big, mean lizards. And that may be hard for some people to really grasp these days, because for a lot of people now, dinosaurs start with Jurassic Park. But in another book that I hope to dig up there and talk about sometime, you can find artwork that shows dinosaurs as being much different than how we conceive of them now. And this book it's, as I've been saying, it's more than just telling an adorable, sweet, scary, amazing, romantic, terrifying, dramatic story, although it is that. And as I said, if you enjoy all of those Walking with Dinosaurs specials, then you will enjoy this. But this book also, it's just a plea to look at dinosaurs differently. And that may date it. That may date it in ways that I can't see, because I grew up with dinosaurs as giant lumbering beasts. And the transition from giant lumbering beasts to dynamic speedmeisters, it's a tough transition to make in a lot of ways. So, I can't advocate people reading this book highly enough. I can't advocate for people to go look up Bob Bakker enough. I can't advocate enough to go look and see the dinosaur special dating back to 1992 from PBS, which I believe, if I recall correctly off the top of my head, was entitled Dinosaur. And that was a 4-part special in which Bob Bakker played a tremendous role, helping with talking the animators through how to animate things. And this was before computer animation, so this is all flat line drawing animation, which frankly I enjoyed so much more than the CGI. And Bob Bakker tells stories and explains the science in ways that manages to simultaneously not be patronizing and not be looking down his nose at us ignorant peons, but is also fun and dramatic and interesting and funny. And I would encourage you to read this book as an opening into how Bob Bakker looks at dinosaurs and sees dinosaurs, and as something to stand up as a comparison to the other big paleontologist who is associated with Jurassic Park, that is Jack Horner, who takes a much more conservative and different stance to Dr. Bakker. So I hope that somebody's enjoyed this. If you liked it, then let me know in the comments. And thanks everybody for stopping by. And I'll see you again next week.